is we're putting the final sand job on our 68 Mustang. And the way that we're going to paint this, we're painting everything individual. That means that we've completely dismantled the car, and we're going to go look at that in a minute, and we're going to paint everything separate. So what I'm going to show you today is something that's very crucial, and it's very easy to do, and it's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of money. And here's a spot right here that we're talking about. Now, what that is, that's an imperfection that we found on the fender after I did all the body work and I primed it, and I'm actually on my final block sand job. I don't want to have to put no more primer on it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to finalize the body work where all I have to do is use epoxy primer only, and it's ready for paint.
Welcome to D.I.Y. Automotive School with my friend Pete and Minnie, the body shop girl. It's everything you need to know about cars and more.
If we look right here, here's our 68 Mustang, and you can see it's all been dismantled. All we got left is basically the quarter panels, the cowling, and the door jambs. It's going to need painted on this because we are painting this in pieces once again. Now, I've already painted the dash. You can see that right there. It came out awesome. And as I was painting the dash, let me walk over here. We went ahead and painted the doors as well, the inside of the doors, and you can see that. So the interior of the car is done. That's black. That's what came from the factory, and that's what it is going to be when my friend Pete gets done with it. But the rest of it is going to be painted green. Now, if you look right here, this is actually block sanded down paint ready primer. The dark spots that you're looking at is epoxy primer underneath the 2K primer. The only thing that I have to do to this is block it down with 320 in various places where the door was sitting when I painted the black. So this is a paint ready door, people. This is what it looks like right before you're going to paint it. Now what we'll do before we paint it, we will apply a coat of epoxy primer. And what that epoxy primer is going to do, it's going to seal all of the areas where I busted through the 2K primer. I know it sounds a little ridiculous, but I'm telling you now, I've been doing this for 42 years. This is how I've always done it. I've never had a blister back or bleed back paint job, because what you're doing is you're leveling everything out. You're sanding it down to the final 320 or 600 wet or 400 wet sand job, and everything is perfectly leveled out and feathered. So we will apply our epoxy primer to this, and it will be done ready for paint. Now, if we look at this fender right here, this is our driver's side left-hand fender. There was major body work in this area of this fender. I had to hammer and dolly it. I pulled it out. I used my shrinking disc, this, that, and the other, and then I put my final body work on top of it. You can see where I block sanded through it right here. All right, that's actually Bondo or filler, whatever you want to call it. And then, as I was block sanding it, of course, I'm using a guide coat, and you can kind of see it right here. This is a guide coat. And as you're using your guide coat, you are creating a road map. You're creating a road map of high spots, low spots. Now, this has been primed twice. This car's been primed twice, just like the 76 Mercedes that we're looking at right there. Now, I've been sanding these two fenders here for the last 3.5 hours. And we are only down to 180. I still have to sand them down to 320. To me, 320 dry is equivalent to almost 600 wet. So I got to this section right here and I noticed there was a low spot here, and I don't want to have to reprime. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the steps of how to apply body filler, Bondo, polyester filler, whatever you want to use, to a fine-tuned finish that you don't have to prime over, and epoxy primer will be sufficient to paint over this right here. So naturally, the first thing that you want to do when you come across a situation like this is you're going to block sand it out. Now, I actually block sanded this down to 80 grit using this block right here. Now, I didn't sand it very hard, and I didn't sand it solidly firmly. All I did is take the 80 grit to break the primer down to find my low spot in this area right here. Once I located my dent, the next thing I did is I took some Bondo and I took some of this plastic honey right here and I mixed it together using my hardener to make a nice, creamy, thick filler that would flow out and would be easy to sand. Using the plastic honey is going to give you a creamier substance when it comes down to your body filler. It's going to give it a more precise substance where it will not leave pinholes when you're sanding it to the fine tuning that we are going to sand this Bondo to. So when we apply our filler, we need to use a very precise Bondo spreader. It has to be very clean, very straight, and I would suggest doing something like I'm going to show you here, where we're going to make this paint ready. And when I say paint ready, I'm talking putting one coat of epoxy on it and it's ready for paint, is to use a brand new Bondo spreader. Using a brand new Bondo spreader is going to let you feather it out. Now, the section that you're looking at here is not this big. It's about this big right here. Where are we at? There we are. All right, it's about that big right there. And to get the consistency that I need to feather that out, I had to cover this much area. We let our filler sit for approximately 30 minutes. That should be more than sufficient for the weather that we're having. That's another thing that I want to explain to you, is the weather that you're working in. If you're working in a cold climate and it's below, I would say 50 degrees, then you need to let this dry with the mixture that I showed you that I used. You need to let that dry for about 45 minutes to an hour before you start sanding it. Because what's going to happen if you sand it any sooner and it's not 100% thoroughly dry, and let me tell you this, we're using 80 grit to start out with. If it's not all the way 100% thoroughly dry, what's going to happen is it's going to pull, it's going to rip on that Bondo or the filler, and then it's going to leave super fine pinholes. And you're not going to see them until after you apply the paint and you color sand and buff it out. I'm going to tell you right now, this is a dangerous situation that I'm showing you, and if you do not know what's going on and you don't feel comfortable doing it, you need to just block it out, go through the procedures of repriming it and blocking it again. So the first thing we're going to do, and you notice I don't have any air hooked up, I'm not using any air tools. Everything that I do from here on out is hand sanding. I'm going to take my 80 grit and I am going to sand this, but I'm only going to concentrate on this area. I'm not going to bring it way over here. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to sand this right here. I want my sander to only hit the Bondo filler that I applied. That's it. And when I sand this, I'm going to be sanding it firmly, meaning that I'm going to be giving it some good force. Not a lot of force, but good enough force where it's going to cut it down quickly. Okay. Do you see what I'm looking at right here? You see what I'm looking at? I'm looking at an area that I contained, and all I did is sand this area right here to break that Bondo down, to break that filler down, to get it feathered out. Now our dent was right here. All right? It was right there, just like that. And you can see that I feathered all that out around the edges and filled it in. That's very, very important to learn how to feather all your filler or your Bondo. I'm going to call it Bondo, okay? It's very important to learn how to feather out your Bondo using a hand block and keeping it contained. You didn't see me going like this, crisscrossing it and blocking it this way and all this bullshit. You saw me keeping the block, and I was basically only using half of it where my hand is. But I want to use a long block like this. I don't want to use a little short hand block. I want to use the long one because the tail shaft of the block is going to help me feather this out. Even though my pressure is applied on the block right there, the block is still dragging this paper to help me feather this out. Does that make sense? You see how that's working? Look, I'm applying my pressure here, but the back of it is helping feather it out. And that's the most crucial key when doing a filler job like I'm teaching you right here, is to feather it out properly. Once this is done, looky here, I got a spot right here I didn't get. I'm going to take my block, and I'm just going to use this section of that block. And I'm concentrating on only the Bondo, nothing else. Okay, it's done. What are we going to do next, my friend Pete? We definitely can't paint it with 80 grit. Of course that's what we're going to do. We're going to move down to 180. Do you see how fast that was? Do you see how quick that I changed that paper just for you? Blink of an eye, quicker than blinking your eyes or snapping your fingers. I'm going to take 180. I'm going to do the same thing, but on this particular sand job, I'm going to bring it way out here. Okay? Now what I'm going to start doing, I'm going to start feathering out all the primer. Now that we got this feathered out, now it's time to spread our wings and get the feather going strong so we can get this job flying out the door. Did you like that little rhyme time that I just did? Did you like that over here at Romper Room SWRC? I appreciate that. Clap your hands, please. So let me get my mask on, and we're going to block this out. I want you to pay attention to how I'm blocking. 80 grit, 180. Okay, there you go. That feels awesome. That feels awesome right there, people. I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. I'm going to put a piece of 320 on there. We're going to get that 320. We're going to put it on just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and block this. But before I block that, I want to take my dust broom and clean it off. Once it's cleaned off, now we can do our final sand job, ready for epoxy primer and paint. And then to finish it out, what we're going to do is I'm going to take this little hand block here, this flex block, and I'm going to go ahead and get this curve right here and finish out this curve here with 320. Okay, so what we've done, people, looky there, guys. Look at that. we have now finished out our Bondo, okay? We have finished that out, and it is now ready for epoxy primer and paint. The epoxy primer is going to seal it 100% and it will never shrink. 2K primer is a filler primer that basically does the same thing, but it's a sandable primer. Using epoxy primer is going to seal all this in. You're not going to sand it. You're going to go directly to paint right after your epoxy. We're done, people. I got one more little imperfection. I don't know if you can see that right there. And it's right on this edge. I'm going to go ahead and use some polyester filler for that one. But once I fix that, I'm going to repeat my process of what I did on this big job right here. And I can tell just by running my hand over it, that's as smooth as a baby's ass, people. All right? I'm looking at it closely. We don't see any pinholes. We don't see any imperfections. I think this came out awesome. And I think that it's time for me to actually get back to work so I can make some money. Because I'm not making money making these videos for you, sir. All right? Getting this out of the door is what's going to make me my money to pay my bills. This is Pete, my friend Pete, your friend Pete, hoping that you are learning from my situations and taking those situations, finding your solutions to fix your problems. Take it easy, guys. Well, it's been approximately a month since I did the repairs on the fender after primer and before epoxy primer and paint. I went ahead and epoxy primed them. We went ahead and painted them. Let's go out and see what that fender looks like painted after we did the bodywork on top of the primer, before the epoxy primer, and before the paint. If you look right here, you can see here's the car. It's painted. It's a done deal. Our fenders are over here. We're going to go take a look at those. And we're going to see how the bodywork came out. And we're going to see how our epoxy primer job came out. And we're going to see how the paint came out. And if we look right here, this is the fender. In this area right here, if you remember correctly, this is where we missed some of the dents and we missed some of the imperfections. We went ahead and blocked all that out. We used our Bondo filler, or whatever you want to call it, and we repaired that. We did not reprime it, and all we used was epoxy primer on that and painted right over it. So if you use your block sanders properly and you know what you're doing and you sand it thoroughly the way they're supposed to be done, there's no need in going back over minor body work and repriming it with 2K primer when you can go straight into a good coat of epoxy primer and then straight into paint. These still have to be buffed. They got orange peel on them. I want to get all that orange peel out. And once they're buffed, we're ready to bolt them on the car and send this job down the road.
Thanks for watching D.I.Y. Automotive School. Classes don't stop till you know everything.